My name is Sato, and I have lived in this small corner of Tokyo for all of my 58 years. My days begin before the first ray of sun touches the rooftops, unlocking the heavy metal shutter of my little shop. It is a stationery and sundry goods store, the kind that used to be on every street, but now stands almost alone, a quiet echo of a time gone by. I sweep the entrance, arrange the pens and paper, the small toys and household items, just so. The smell of old paper and dust is comforting to me. My customers are mostly the elderly folks of the neighborhood or young children sent on errands by their grandmothers. It is a quiet life, peaceful in its own way, but beneath that calm surface, a constant worry churns. The world outside my shop changes so quickly. Towering buildings rise where old wooden houses once stood, and large, brightly lit chain stores attract crowds I can only dream of. My small shop, inherited from my father and his father before him, barely breaks even these days. Each evening, as I carefully count the day's earnings, a knot tightens in my stomach. The numbers barely cover the rent, the dwindling stock, the electricity. I often skip dinner, telling myself I am not hungry, but the truth is, every yen saved is a yen that keeps this legacy alive for another day. My dreams are simple now: to keep this shop open, to keep the lights on, to not be the generation that lets it all disappear. This fear of failing, of watching my family's history crumble in my hands, is my internal nemesis. It whispers to me late at night, telling me I am not good enough, not strong enough to fight the relentless march of time. As autumn bled into winter, the chill in the air seemed to seep deeper into my bones and into the very walls of my shop. My sales slowed even more. People stayed indoors, preferring the warmth of their homes to a stroll down my quiet street. I tried everything. I polished the old wooden shelves until they gleamed. I arranged the colorful pencils in new, more inviting ways. I even bought a small batch of new, interesting notebooks, hoping to catch someone's eye. But it was not enough. Every day, the till was lighter, the worry heavier. I started noticing the neighborhood stray cats more. There was the old Ginger Tom Odgison with his torn ear who always sat by the alley entrance. Then the skittish Calico, Mimi, and a family of 4 sleek black cats who moved like shadows. They were thin, their fur a little dull, and as the cold deepened, I saw them shivering, huddled together for warmth. I began to leave out small scraps of food, leftover rice, or bits of dried fish. It was not much, but it was all I could spare. I felt a pang of guilt each time, knowing my own finances were so precarious, but I simply could not ignore their hungry eyes. They became my silent companions, a small source of comfort in my increasingly lonely world. The winter grew fierce, colder than I had known in decades. The news spoke of a record-breaking freeze blanketing Tokyo. The small, makeshift shelters I had tried to build for the cats with old cardboard boxes were no match for the wind and the relentless sleet. They were torn apart, soaked through, useless. My heart ached for them. One morning I found Odgison curled in a tight ball, his body trembling uncontrollably, his eyes glazed with misery. It was heartbreaking. My own shop was barely warm. I could not afford to run the old space heater all day. Just as I thought things could not get worse, the landlord delivered a notice, a significant rent increase effective next month. Then, a few days later, a final notice from the electricity company. I had fallen behind, using what little money I had for the shop's most basic needs, hoping to catch up. My hands trembled as I read the letters. It felt like every door was closing, every path leading to a dead end. I sat in my empty shop, the dim winter light barely pushing back the gloom. My breath plumed in the cold air. I looked at the few items on my shelves, the pens, the paper, the small notebooks. They seemed to mock me, relics of a fading dream. I imagined locking the shop for good, placing a for sale sign on the shutter, walking away from everything I had known. The thought filled me with an unbearable emptiness, a cold worse than the Tokyo winter. I had no family left, no one to turn to. I was truly alone. I felt a complete and utter defeat wash over me, a chilling certainty that I had failed. I looked at an old, broken radio in a corner, a project I had hoped to fix and sell. Now it just looked like another piece of my crumbling world. I had even bought parts for it, but in my despair, I knew I lacked the energy to even try. It was over. I was a failure. Just when the chill of hopelessness had settled deepest in my heart, something shifted. It wasn't a grand revelation, but a small, persistent image, Odgison's shivering form. I couldn't save my shop, perhaps, but could I not at least offer warmth to those small, vulnerable creatures? My gaze drifted to a stack of sturdy wooden crates behind the shop, discarded by the ramen shop next door. They were strong, solid. Then I remembered the old, small space heater in my storage room, a relic from a time when my shop had a second display window. It was old, but it still worked, perfect for a small, enclosed space. A spark, tiny but persistent, ignited within me. Even if I lost everything, I would not let these innocent animals suffer. I would fight this one last battle. I began to work. My hands, stiff from the cold and lack of proper meals, found an unexpected strength. I hauled the wooden crates, cleaned them, and with some old plastic sheeting I found, I began to piece together a small, sturdy box. I used old newspapers as insulation, stuffing them tightly into the gaps, covering them with more plastic sheeting to keep out the damp. It was crude, but it was taking shape. I carefully set the small space heater inside, making sure there was enough ventilation, yet keeping it snug. I even found an old, worn wool blanket in the back of my shop, which I folded and placed inside for softness. As I was securing the last piece of plastic, a young woman stopped. She was Akari, a student who occasionally bought pencils from my shop. She had a kind face and often smiled. "Mr. Sato," she said, her breath misting in the cold air. "What are you building?" I straightened up, a little embarrassed. "Just a small shelter for the cats," I replied, my voice raspy. "It's too cold for them outside." Akari's eyes widened and a warm smile spread across her face. "That's wonderful," she said. "They must be freezing. Thank you, Mr. Sato." She reached into her bag. "Please let me buy you a hot coffee." I protested, but she insisted, pressing the warm cup into my hands. It was the first act of unexpected kindness I had received in a long, long time. Later that day, after I had finally finished the shelter, carefully plugging in the heater and watching the cats cautiously investigate their new, warm haven, Akari came back. She had a bag of good quality cat food and a small, soft cat bed. She didn't stay long, but her kindness felt like a tiny ember in my own cold heart. What I didn't know was that Akari had taken a picture of my humble shelter, and of me, bundled up and tired, yet working with such dedication. She had posted it on a local social media group, simply writing about the kind old man and his cat shelter in our freezing Tokyo neighborhood. The next day, things began to change. First, a few people stopped by, asking about the shelter, peeking in at the cats who were now curled up, finally warm. They bought a few items from my shop, small things like a pen or a notebook. Then more people came. They brought bags of cat food, blankets, even a small donation towards the electricity bill for the heater. Some simply wanted to thank me. Word spread like warmth through the cold streets. My small shop, once a lonely outpost, became a small hub. People started coming from other neighborhoods, drawn by the story. They bought stationery, yes, but more importantly, they bought into a story of kindness. My shop slowly, steadily came back to life. The till was no longer empty. I could pay the rent, the electricity. I could even afford to buy fresh produce for myself. The cats, my silent companions, were thriving. Ajisen, his fur now sleek and thick, would often rub against my legs as I unlocked the shop each morning. Mimi, once so skittish, now allowed me to gently stroke her head. The cat shelter became a beloved local landmark, a small, glowing beacon of warmth and compassion in the heart of our bustling city. I was no longer lonely. I found myself smiling more, chatting with customers, telling them about each cat's personality. I even started a small cat fund jar on my counter, where people could donate for cat food or, when needed, a trip to the veterinarian. I used a portion of my own improved sales to buy even better quality food for them and ensure their shelter was always clean and cozy. One brisk afternoon, Akari came back to the shop, her face alight with excitement. She told me how my story had inspired her. She had started volunteering at a local animal shelter, spending her weekends helping to care for the animals and working to find them homes. "Mr. Sato," she said, "you showed me that even the smallest act of kindness can make a huge difference, not just for the cats, but for a whole community." I felt a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the heater. My shop, once on the brink of closure, was now a place of connection, a symbol of hope. It wasn't about the stationery anymore or just the cats. It was about the ripple effect of genuine care. And then one day, as I sat on a small stool by the shelter watching the cats sleep peacefully, Ajisen, the grumpy old ginger Tom, hopped onto my lap. He kneaded his paws on my sweater, purring deeply, his trust complete. It was a small thing, but it spoke volumes. The record-breaking freeze had almost broken me, but instead it had brought an unexpected warmth, a profound connection, and a future I had never dared to dream of. Life truly does get better, sometimes in the most wonderfully unexpected ways.